Broadcasting live from Jerusalem, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Coach, welcome to Israel Sports Radio.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Excellent. First of all, for those of our listeners who aren't familiar with your program, why don't you tell us a little bit about Radford and the Big South Conference?
Well, Radford University is a four-year school, Division I athletic program located in Southwest Virginia. And we play in the Big South Conference with teams like Winthrop and Virginia Military Institute and Coastal Carolina and UNC Asheville and Liberty. And, the winner of our conference, like the winner of all Division I conferences, gets an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. We were fortunate enough to win the conference 2 years ago. Last year we came in second during the regular season and lost in the semis. But it's Division I basketball. We're right in the geographic footprint of the ACC. So we're sort of the little sister or little brother to Virginia Tech and some ACC competition. But, we try to do our best to play a high quality of basketball, and at the same time, our university is a growing university with about 10,000 students.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about your team this year.
Well, we're a real young team this year. We graduated last year 4 1,000-point scorers, and 3 of them are playing professionally right now this year in different parts of the world. Our best player from the last couple of seasons, his name is Art Parakowski. He's a center who plays for a team in Riga, Latvia, and he was the player of the year in the conference the last 2 years and the leading rebounder in the country. And then we've got a couple other players that are playing in Switzerland, one in Iceland, actually. But we're going to start a lot of young players. We have a little international flair to our team. We've got 5 international players on our team, a player from Sweden, 2 players from Turkey, a player from France, and a player from Latvia. So we have sort of a nice mix of domestic players and international players.
And I noticed the international flavor there. How did that come about? Are you intentionally recruiting in Europe now, or is that something that just sort of happened?
Well, I had spent a lot of time in the NBA and did a lot of international scouting when I was the player personnel director for the Trailblazers and the general manager for the 76ers. So, I always felt very strongly about the quality of basketball outside the United States and how it has grown so much. And then for my first 3 years, had an assistant on our team who grew up actually in Turkey and spent a lot of time, following international basketball too. His dad was a coach of the Turkish professional league team. So, we just felt that at Radford it would help us if we were a little more creative with our recruiting and not just focus on high school kids. So we try to have a mix of high school kids, some international players, and some junior college transfers.
And I also noticed that, unlike some small schools, you've got a lot of height on your team this year. Is that something you're going to try to exploit?
Well, we'd like to have as big a team as we can. Sometimes that's a real advantage it has in the last couple of years because our height was real good. The players we had that were big were the best players in the league. This year they're more developing players, so sometimes that can be a detriment in our league because there are a lot of teams that play with 4 small guys out on the floor and put a lot of three-point shooters out there. So
right.
I like to have as big a team as we can to try to be as good defensively around the basket and rebound as well as you can. But sometimes it does pose problems for us, and chasing around little guys that want to shoot threes with big people aren't quite as quick. So sometimes we have to be creative just to keep those big guys out on the court and still have a chance to be able to defend smaller teams.
Isn't the old coaching adage, the one thing you can't teach is size?
That's true. And, but with our big guys, if you notice on our roster, so many of them are freshmen. We have 5 freshmen that are, pretty tall, and, you have to be patient with young big people, and we'll do that this year. This is the year for a lot of those young players to get experience, and, I think we're real hopeful and pretty confident that it's going to pay off in the long run. It might not pay off quite as much this year, but going to have a big picture in mind with developing these young big guys.
Sure. Now, you got a big game tomorrow night against George Mason. What are the challenges for that game?
Well, Mason is a good team, and they have experience. they played a lot of younger people last year, but now they've got a lot of juniors and redshirt sophomores that had a couple of years in their program, and a few seniors too that have been part of their team for a long time. So the challenge really is for our young guys to keep their poise on the road against a good, experienced team, and a team that has a little revenge on their mind. We played George Mason last year at home and actually probably played our best game of the year. We beat them by 27 points. So I'm sure their coaching staff and their players remember that and want a little payback tomorrow night. So we're going to have to really play as well as we're capable of playing, I think, to make it a good game.
Think that one's up on their bulletin board?
I think there's a good chance that a few of them remember it.
Now, Coach, you've taken a rather different career path than your brother. He's been at the college level the whole time. You spent a few years as an assistant in college, then went to the NBA. Was the NBA always one of your goals?
Well, I was fortunate enough when I was initially in college as an assistant to work for, and I had previously played for Jim Wynham, who was one of the greatest coaches in the United States. And he went on from being my head coach at American U to my boss at St. Joe's to become an assistant in the NBA under his mentor, Jack Ramsey, and then the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, and then he moved on to a bunch of other teams. So I just was very lucky that Jim gave me an opportunity to jump into the NBA when I was 30 years old as an assistant coach. And I always loved the NBA, followed it closely, and when I had that opportunity, I jumped at it. Thought that probably would be my career path for good, be a coach in the NBA, but that's a dicey world there. And all of a sudden, I went from coaching into scouting into management, and the next thing I knew, I was a general manager of an NBA team. And when that didn't work out long term, I thought I'd go back to my first love, which was college basketball and coaching. And after 7 years, had an opportunity to coach my own team, something I thought I was going to do about 25 years earlier, but it took till I was in my early 50s to get a head job as a Division I college coach. So it's worked out. A little different game plan than I originally thought, but it's been wonderful.
Better late than never, though, right?
Yeah, and it's what I always wanted to do, and just veered off and was involved in the management side of the basketball world at the NBA level, and loved doing that. But I can honestly say I enjoy what I'm doing now more than anything I've ever done in basketball, and I've had a chance to do an awful lot of different things, which is pretty neat.
That is neat. Getting back to the NBA just for one question, you're rather famous for being the guy that drafted Allen Iverson. What was that decision like?
Well, it was an easy decision. At the time, the 76ers really needed a jolt of energy and had a few players that were pretty good at positions other than center and someone that could really handle the ball and create out of the backcourt. And there were no real centers in that draft, that could have changed the fortunes of the team at all. So it really came down to which guard. Now, in retrospect, the only other player that probably, has done something, on par with what Allen did during his NBA career was Kobe Bryant, and he's obviously maybe even eclipsed what Allen has done. But Kobe was just a high school player, and to be quite honest, I didn't have the nerve to draft a high school player, number one, even if he was a Philly kid right there in the Sixers' backyard. But if you could turn back the clock, maybe I should have been creative enough to figure out a way to move ahead of Jerry West's game plan to sneak into the middle of the first round and somehow end up with Kobe Bryant. But Allen was, a spectacular player, and really has probably had the greatest impact of a little scorer, maybe in the history of the NBA. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a small guard that has been as good a scorer for his career than Allen Iverson. So, while a lot of people look at him and think some things that maybe aren't always positive, I think his legacy is the greatest small scorer in the history of the NBA.
Well, and it certainly worked out well for the Sixers for a number of years.
Yeah, no, Allen's a good guy, a little different than what the media has portrayed him to be, and has had a marvelous career. I just hope it finishes up, with the kind of dignity in Istanbul.
Right.
And I don't know how that's going to turn out. I only played one game, and I'm hoping he can play well enough that he feels good about that decision to go over there and play.
Did you ever stay in contact with him?
Just for a couple of years afterwards, but not anything serious. I mean, in the NBA, you get to know the players that you either coach or somehow acquire via the draft or a trade, but it's different than in college, and that's one of the appealing things of being in college again. It's the chance to have a real impact on somebody's life is certainly a lot different than the impact you have off the court on anybody's life when you're in the NBA.
Sure. Now, you're in your 4th year now at Radford. You're already successful. You've won a conference regular season and tournament, a trip to the NCAA tournament. Do you see yourself staying at the college level?